Welcome to another video from Creativo Solutions. You're currently watching the podcast series. The audio comes from live classes, so you'll hear the live content, and I hope the content will help you learn something that will add value. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to post them below and consider subscribing to the channel. The audio contained here will be covering more of the bank reconciliation, but it's going to delve a bit deeper with regard to the adjusting and reconciling items.
So that one was an outstanding deposit. Okay, there's a little diagram there just to show you what the actual working is. Outstanding deposit means there's the business, there's the customer, there's the bank. Who are you waiting to process? The bank, because the customer would have paid you. You would have received the check. You're going to take it to the bank and you're going to deposit it. Once you've done that, then it's just a matter of time. Maybe a few hours, maybe a day or two, and then the bank records it in your bank statement. Okay, then if you draw a bank statement, you'll see that line item. Then you would have said, well, okay, now I remember I went to the bank 2 days ago and I made a deposit. Now I can see it on my statement. Okay, when you do see it on your statement, then is it a reconciling item? No, because now you can see something that you've done reflecting in your bank account. It means both parties on the same page. Makes sense. Question?
Can we consider outstanding deposits as timing difference?
Of course. All right, it's exactly that. It is a timing difference. Yeah, but like I said, you don't have to be too specific. You don't have to worry about timing differences or not. It is a timing difference because if I deposit money, let's say before you guys came into campus, okay, you went past the bank before it closed, 3 o'clock, and you stood in the queue. The bank closed its doors, but you were still in line. Okay, now it reaches 4 o'clock and you're the last person to be served. Okay, you deposit some money into the bank account. Are you going to see that later today?
Depends.
Probably not, depending on the bank's processes. Some banks are quite efficient. Other banks aren't as efficient. Okay, depending on who you bank with. Right, some banks do process payments and deposits a lot quicker. Some don't. Some still take a day or two, depending. Okay, and it also depends on what did you deposit. Was it a check or was it cash? That also makes a difference. Okay, so when focusing on outstanding deposits, just think about it logically. Whose books are correct?
Your books.
Yours. Has the bank shown your deposit?
No.
No, they haven't. So, just reconcile? Reconcile. There's the answer. And what are we going to show in the bank reconciliation statement? A credit, exactly. Okay, the reason why I show a credit and not a debit is because eventually, when they do decide to process my check that I've deposited, am I going to get more or less?
More.
Going to get more. And the bank credits your account when they show more in your account. Okay. Right, next one. Stale checks. What is that? Anyone know?
Rubber checks.
Hey?
Rubber checks.
What do you mean rubber checks?
They bounce.
That's a dishonor check. That's a dishonor check.
Is it not when the date expires or something?
That's correct.
The what?
Right, that's correct. When the date expires. Right, so everything expires, okay, so do checks. Okay, so at some point in time, a check becomes too old. Okay, it's 6 months. Okay, nowadays in today's world, people don't use checks anymore. Why don't they use checks anymore?
Because with the facilities that we have.
Other forms of transaction or transacting. Okay, more convenient methods of transacting. Okay, so it's easier now to just do an EFT. Okay, then having to write out a check, tear it out of the checkbook, give it to someone else. It's also a hassle as well. Okay, and it's not as efficient in terms of payments being processed. Okay, checks take a while to process, and that's why it's not preferred. So nowadays, it's not going to be very common to see a business that still accepts checks.
Are we going to do away with the check accounts?
Well, check accounts come from those days. Okay, it's a current account. current account / check account. They function the same. It's a transactional account. Okay, meaning you can transact with the bank account. Okay, so you can do something with it, either pay or receive payments or transact, swipe cards, etc. Okay. Right. So if it's a stale check, what does that mean? The check is outdated. It's expired. Okay. So what would you have done when you received the check? Of course you would have. Right. So do you agree? If you're the business, you would have received a check from your customer. What do you then do with that check? You deposit the check. Okay. If you deposit the check, it's going to go through. Do you agree? Okay, so when you receive checks, do you agree you're going to make sure that you deposit the check before 6 months are up? If you hold on to the check for too long, it becomes stale. If it's greater than 6 months and you go to the bank and you deposit that check that you received, is the bank going to transfer money from the customer's account to yours? No, that's not going to happen. Okay, so we're not going to look at checks that we don't deposit because obviously we're going to manage and monitor that process. Okay, so the checks that we're talking about here are the checks that we issue. Right, so now imagine writing a check. When you write out a check, what are you going to record in your books? A payment, correct. So, cash payments journal, payment, check issued. That's what happened. If I've issued a check, it's going to go through the cash payments journal. I'm going to make the payment and I'm going to send it to my supplier. The supplier loses the check or the supplier misplaces it. And 6 months go by and nothing happens. Am I still going to record that check as a payment? Well, did you make a payment?
No. Technically you didn't.
Technically you didn't. And will it ever go through after 6 months?
No.
Never. Right, it'll never go through. So if you wrote out a check and the supplier never ever, for whatever reason, deposited it, it's never going to go through as long as it's over 6 months old. Right, because now it becomes old. Okay, so now you're showing, so back in the day, 6 months ago, you showed a payment in your CPJ. Is that correct?
No.
No. What must I do now? Adjust. Okay, remove the old check from your book. That's what you're doing.
You still owe your supply.
Yeah.
Maybe, but then the supplier needs to come back to you and ask you for the payment. Remember, it's not your fault if they didn't deposit the money. Okay, you've got record. If you go to your checkbook, there's a check counterfoil. That check counterfoil is going to say, I wrote out a check to this supplier and paid this amount. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, if they didn't pay and now they're coming back to you to ask for payment, then you're going to have to write out another check.
Is it? Okay, but on your books, don't you keep the record that you still owe them?
Well, we're not looking at the outstanding amount because when do you record transactions?
When they are,
The day that it arises. So when you wrote out the check, did you make payment?
yeah.
Yes. So as far as you're concerned, you've paid your debt. Whether they deposit that check or not is not your problem. Do you agree? Right, obviously later down the line, if they didn't deposit the check, it got lost, whatever the case is, and it's 6 months down the line and there's no transfer, meaning it's outstanding. Okay, obviously the supplier is probably thinking that you're still owing. Then there needs to be a reconciliation between the supplier and the business. Okay, because now you need to then confirm, well, I did write out the check. Okay, you lost the check, you misplaced the check. Now it's stale. You can't charge interest on that account if I did pay previously. They just didn't deposit the money on time. Okay, so are you guys happy with what that means?
Yeah.
Okay, that's important. Understanding is key. So stale checks are checks that you're going to remove or reverse. Next. Sorry, I need to close that. Okay. Bank charges. Why?
Because they are not on your records. So
Does everyone agree with that?
yeah.
100%.
But how do you know? Oh, it's not on your...
Bank charges.
Yeah, it's from
When are you ever going to see bank charges? Hey? When are you ever going to see bank charges?
When you
On the statement, exactly. Okay, you won't know what the bank charges are unless you've got that statement.
So all of these things are on your books.
Well, it could be. Some are, some aren't. It just depends what you've been given. Is that okay? What are you going to do with bank charges? Adjust and reconcile.
You adjust onto the company's
Where do you adjust?
because it's
The CP
on the payment.
Correct. On the cash payments. Good. There you go. You've got the answer. Bank charges adjust, including the business's record, CPJ entry for the bank charges. Simple, straightforward. You've seen quite a lot of those. Next, interest on a current account.
Adjust.
Why?
Because it's a money that it's an interest day, so you receive money on your savings, whatever it is.
Okay, good. So bank accounts can earn interest depending on the bank that you bank with. And if that's the case, where will I see the interest?
Money received
On the statement. Whose books are correct?
the bank.
Adjust and reconcile. There's the answer. Where do I adjust? Correct. Cash receipts. There you go. See, easy. Okay, we're just revising some of the basics, and now it's, see, you're getting back into the pool. Okay. Next, guys.
What's next?
The
Why?
payment is correct.
It's still interest, but now it's a overdraft. So if it's an overdraft, good or bad?
It's bad.
Good. Bad for the business because we have to pay it. Which journal? There you go. Adjust CPJ. It's a payment, yes. And that's it. Simple, straightforward. That's always something that you're going to have to do. That's why I've been asking you guys a lot to adjust or reconcile, adjust or reconcile. Okay, because that's what you actually need to find out. Right, what's going to happen here? Debit and stop orders.
I adjust because the bank, the
Yeah, adjust
what
because
happens on the
it
statement.
happens
They do both.
Good. Okay, so where do you see your debit orders? On your bank statement. So who's correct?
The bank.
Good. Adjust or reconcile. So not always. So where else would you see a bank debit order?
The debit orders on the bank statement is not always right.
Well, if it's not always right, then that's something that you need to query with the bank, but then you need to do more investigation. Okay, but if it's just the bank debit order, it's going to be on the bank statement. So the bank would have captured it. If we haven't, what do we do? Correct, we adjust. Okay, so adjust meaning CPJ or CRJ?
CPJ, you pay.
Correct, CPJ. Good. Debit orders and stop orders will go to the cash payments. It'll be an adjusting journal entry. Okay, so dishonored checks always get recorded in the cash payments journal. Because let's think about it. A debtor normally will come and pay. If a debtor is going to pay, they're going to maybe write out a check. You receive the check, all right, it's in good faith, so you would assume that that person has paid. As soon as you get the check, you immediately go to a cash receipts book and you record a receipt.
Right.
Do you agree? Okay, so in the past, record a receipt. Because as soon as that person gives you the check, it's like receiving cash, almost. It just takes a while to transfer and to clear. So that's the past. In the past, I received a check. I'm happy with the check. I record this individual, this business paid. Cash receipts journal, we receive something from them. 2, 3, 4, 5 days down the line, when the check actually clears, the bank processes a dishonored check RD line item on your bank statement. Okay, because where do I see dishonored checks? On the bank statement. Okay, you're going to see a line item there that says, this check bounced, this check was dishonored. So now, did you think you're going to get the money? Yes. Did you? No. What must you do?
You need to adjust.
Adjust by reversing out the old receipt. That's basically what you're doing. Make sense? Okay. Adjust, reversing the old receipt, CPJ for the check RD. Right, things like this you can learn. So the list that you've got here, if you really want to study something, you can study this list. Right, but it's better just to understand what's happening and just apply it. That's all I'm asking. Who's right? That tells me whether I adjust or reconcile. That's it. I don't need to learn the list to remember all the different scenarios. Okay. Ooh, don't show that one. Okay, next one. Jafta, what did you say for this one?
The bank made a mistake here by overstating a check on the bank statement. So there needs to be a reconciliation.
Good. Okay, so happy with that bit. The bank made the mistake. They overcharged your account. So is your account too high or too low? Too low. They overcharged a check on the bank statement. Do you agree? So your check account, your account is too low. It's overstated. So what's going to happen when they fix that? Are they going to debit or credit your account? Correct. They'll credit the account because they'll fix the mistake. See, that's where interpretation is everything. Because now we need to understand how is the bank going to correct the transaction. Okay. Next. Bank understates a check on the bank statement. Crystal?
I said reconcile because they took less money from my account than they should have.
So what are we going to do? Debit or credit the recon?
Well, debit the bank recon.
Debit the bank recon, correct. Right, so another reconciling item, except in this case, the bank has to debit our account by a bigger amount because they debited an amount that was too small. Make sense? Okay, so the opposite to what you had earlier, not a debit, not a credit rather, a debit for the second one. Okay. Nice. Next. Bank overstates a deposit on the bank statement. Miriam?
The bank overstates a deposit. They charge more on the deposit you made.
Carry on that chain of thought. That's correct so far.
They charge deposit. So you have to adjust.
Do you have to adjust?
No, you have to reconcile.
Why? Which one?
Okay, you have to reconcile
Yes, you do.
because the bank made the mistake.
Because the bank made a mistake. Exactly. So ask yourself the question, who's correct? We're correct. The bank overstated the deposit. So the bank overstated the deposit. What did they do to your account? Did they give you too much or too little? They gave you too much. So when you look at your account, is that account too high or too low? It's too high. What are they going to do when they fix that mistake? They're going to debit your account to remove the additional amount. Exactly. There you go. What is this? Bank understates a deposit on the bank statement. Oh, was it over or understates? Oh, I've left one out. Okay, sorry, I've shown both now. Right, it's fine. Okay, there's the overstated account. Overstate, debit the account. Understate, credit the account. Okay, yeah, so I've actually revealed both. Right, it's just the opposite. So what you mentioned here was the bank overstated a deposit. They processed too much. When they fix it, they're going to debit my account. If they understate the deposit, well, then they still need to fix it, except they're not going to debit, they're going to credit because they made a mistake. Our bank account is too low. Make sense? Okay, it's not so bad, hey?
I think it's easier when you know whose perspective. Yeah.
Perspective is everything, and it's always from whose perspective? The business. You just need to understand what... Okay, he locked himself out. Okay.
But question like, I'm going to take it back. Direct deposit. Who is depositing?
Direct deposit. Well, would the bank deposit?
No, we say direct deposit. And then we said we adjust.
Does it matter who deposited?
No, if I deposit,
Yes.
if
Okay, because what's the relationship?
customer deposit onto my current account,
Then that's a direct. No, that's an EFT. That's transfer. Okay, that is a direct deposit.
yeah.
Okay, so okay, I hear where you're going with this. Right. So if it's a direct deposit, we could actually add that here then. Okay, so a direct deposit, we went with receipt on the bank statement. That's what we said.
Is it not the same effect though, whether it's the customer depositing or the business depositing?
Well, if the business deposited it, then it would be what? A reconciling item, because then it's an outstanding deposit, not a direct deposit. So I think that's the confusion. Okay, so a direct deposit is different to an outstanding deposit. Okay, that's a really nice question to ask, but I can't change your assessment.
But we pay, isn't it?
But that's a really good question. Okay, it's a really good question. Is an outstanding deposit the same as a direct deposit? No, they're different. What's the difference? Okay, let's understand what happened. Okay, so who's depositing into the bank?
Outstanding is
The business. The business.
for outstanding.
Yes. Outstanding deposit means you went, so we spoke about this, you went to the bank before it closed, you deposited the money an hour before the bank closed for the day or even for the weekend. The bank doesn't open, we'll assume it doesn't open on Saturday and Sunday, okay, and they don't process it, so it's only going to go through on the Monday. Do you agree?
Yeah.
That's an outstanding deposit.
And direct, we also did, the company deposited money onto the...
No, a direct deposit is when you get an EFT on your phone that says money came in, you have no idea who it came from. Then you need to go and check, well, okay, it came from this individual. Does that make sense?
But what if I direct deposit onto my supplier's account?
If you direct deposit onto your supplier's account, then that's an outstanding payment. Because it's a supplier. You don't deposit, well, okay, you deposit into your supplier's bank account, but it's a payment that you're making. Not a deposit. You don't view that as a deposit because you're not the one that's going to get the benefits. Okay, so be careful how you view it.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so let's just recap that. Okay, if you go to your supplier and you directly deposit money into your supplier's bank account because they give you all their details, that's seen as an outstanding payment
From my books.
from your perspective, because you're not looking at things from their perspective. There's a big difference between, yeah. Okay, so yeah, nice test question. Next semester they can get that one. Okay.
That concludes the audio from this session. Thank you for listening. Consider subscribing to the channel, and if you have any comments or questions, post them below, and please consider liking the video. That supports the channel so we can keep creating more content to help you.